Supreme Commander Yang Kyungmin stood before the largest fleet humanity had ever assembled. 1,200 warships surrounded HFY like an iron fist closing around the alien homeworld. 3 years had passed since New Busan burned. Now judgment had come to the species that thought humans were weak. The HFY homeworld hung in space before them, a blue and green marble that looked almost peaceful. Cities glowed on the night side like scattered jewels. Orbital stations sparkled in the light of the system's twin suns. It was beautiful and terrible, the heart of an empire built on the bones of conquered worlds. Admiral Cho Youngji commanded the siege fleet from her flagship. Around her, captains and admirals who had spent 3 years planning this moment waited for orders. They had fought across 47 HFY worlds to reach this place. They had proven that human military power could shatter any defense the aliens could build. "Send the message," Supreme Commander Yang ordered. Captain Im Hyun-woo activated the communication array. His voice would reach every HFY on their homeworld, from the lowest worker to the highest military commander. "This is Supreme Commander Yang Kyungmin of the Human Defense Force. 3 years ago, your empire murdered 2 million innocent people on New Busan. You destroyed our colony because you believed humans had no right to exist among the stars. You were wrong." The transmission paused. On the planet below, billions of aliens listened to words that would determine their fate. "We offer terms of surrender. Your military will lay down their weapons. Your leaders will face trial for war crimes. Your empire will pay reparations for every human life you took. You have 1 hour to respond." Silence filled space around HFY. On the planet's surface, emergency meetings convened in government buildings. Military commanders argued with political leaders. Some wanted to surrender. Others prepared for a final battle they could not win. Lieutenant Colonel Jang Miran waited with her ground forces in the assault ships. 50,000 Marines in powered armor, ready to storm the beaches of hell itself if necessary. They had trained for 3 years for this moment. They knew every street of every major city on HFY. "Colonel," one of her sergeants asked, "do you think they'll surrender?" Miran checked her weapon for the 1,000th time. "Doesn't matter. If they surrender, we accept it with honor. If they fight, we end them with efficiency. Either way, the children of New Busan get justice today." Dr. Ha Sungmin monitored communications from the planet below. He had spent months preparing for this moment, documenting HFY war crimes and preparing the legal framework for trials. His teams were ready to process the surrender of an entire interstellar empire. "I'm detecting massive troop movements," he reported. "They're positioning their military around major population centers." Supreme Commander Yang frowned. "Human shields?" "It appears so. They think we won't attack if civilian casualties are possible. They're about to learn how precise human weapons can be." The hour passed without response. On HFY, the alien leadership had made their choice. Rather than face justice for their crimes, they would hide behind their own people and dare humanity to fire on innocent civilians. They had forgotten who they were dealing with. "All ships, begin precision bombardment," Admiral Cho ordered. "Military targets only. I want surgical strikes that can take out a single building without damaging the structure next to it." The human fleet opened fire with weapons so accurate they could thread needles across interplanetary distances. Missiles struck military bases with pinpoint precision. Energy beams carved through command bunkers without touching nearby schools. Orbital strikes eliminated weapon factories while leaving hospitals untouched. Captain Im coordinated the bombardment from his command ship. His targeting computers had been programmed with 3 years of intelligence about HFY. Every military installation was marked. Every government building was cataloged. Every weapon cache was identified, but the civilian areas remained completely untouched. On the planet below, HFY civilians watched in amazement as human weapons destroyed their military with surgical precision while leaving them unharmed. Buildings exploded 1 block away while they stood uninjured in their homes. It was impossible by any military doctrine they understood. "How are they doing this?" asked a HFY news reporter as she broadcast from a balcony overlooking a military base that had been reduced to rubble, while the apartment buildings around it remained perfect. The answer was simple. Humans had spent 3 years learning everything about their enemy. They knew which buildings held soldiers and which held families. They knew where the weapons were stored and where the children played, and they chose to destroy only what deserved destruction. The precision bombardment lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Vorthak military on their homeworld had ceased to exist. Not a single military vehicle remained functional. Not a single command center could communicate with its units. Not a single weapon factory could produce ammunition. But the schools still stood. The hospitals still functioned. The civilian population remained unharmed. Begin landing operations, Supreme Commander Yang commanded. Lieutenant Colonel Jiang led her Marines down from orbit in drop pods that fell like metal rain. They landed not in the cities, but at strategic points around the planet that would allow them to control movement without endangering civilians. The few Vorthak military units that tried to resist were overwhelmed within minutes. Human soldiers fought with 3 years of training and a burning need for justice. Alien defenders, demoralized by the complete destruction of their support systems, surrendered in massive numbers. Within 12 hours, human forces controlled every major city on HFY. Within 24 hours, the planetary government formally surrendered. Dr. Ha began processing the surrender immediately. War crimes tribunals were established. Evidence of atrocities was catalogued. The systematic murder of human colonies was documented for history to remember. But something unexpected happened as human forces occupied HFY. The alien civilians, expecting brutal treatment from their conquerors, instead found humans distributing food and medical supplies. Human doctors treated wounded Vorthak soldiers. Human engineers repaired civilian infrastructure damaged in the fighting. Why? Asked a young Vorthak female as a human medic treated her injured child. Why do you help us? We are your enemies. The medic, a woman who had lost her own family on New Busan, paused in her work. You didn't kill our children. Your leaders did. You're not our enemy. You're just people who happened to be born on the wrong side of a war you didn't start. News of human conduct spread across the galaxy at light speed. Other alien species watching humanity's methodical destruction of the Vorthak Empire had expected brutal revenge. Instead, they saw justice tempered with mercy. They saw a species that could wage total war, but chose to show compassion to the innocent. The Vorthak Empire collapsed completely within weeks of their homeworld's fall. Their military-based society could not survive the psychological shock of total defeat. Worlds that had been unified under alien rule for centuries suddenly declared independence. Some Vorthak colonies surrendered to human forces, seeking protection from the chaos. Others simply abandoned their colonial governments and reverted to tribal societies. The empire that had terrorized this region of space for generations simply ceased to exist. Supreme Commander Yang stood on the balcony of what had once been the Vorthak Imperial Palace. The city below bustled with activity as humans and aliens worked together to rebuild what war had damaged. It was strange to see former enemies cooperating, but it gave him hope for the future. 5 years later, General Lee Minho stood before a memorial on the rebuilt world of New Busan. The ceremony honored the 2 million people who had died here, but also celebrated the peace that their sacrifice had made possible. The galaxy was different now. Humanity had proven that aggression against human colonies would meet swift and total retaliation. But they had also proven that humans could show mercy to those who chose peace over war. Other alien empires, having watched the methodical destruction of the Vorthak, chose diplomacy over conquest. A new galactic council formed with Earth as the primary military power. Trade flourished. Colonies grew. Children of a dozen species played together in parks that had once been battlefields. The memorial wall on New Busan listed every name of every person who had died in the massacre. At the bottom, carved in letters of polished stone, were the words that had become humanity's promise to the galaxy. We seek peace among the stars, but we do not forget our dead. Touch our people and face the consequences. The galaxy had learned that humans were not weak because they chose mercy. They chose mercy because they knew what they were capable of when they chose war. And in that knowledge, a fragile peace had been born among the stars. Fleet Admiral Park Seojun stood on the bridge of the TES New Busan, watching 500 human warships move through space in perfect formation. The flagship was a monster of metal and fire, twice the size of any ship humanity had ever built. Its weapons could crack moons. Its armor could withstand the fury of dying stars. 2 years had passed since the ghost ships began haunting Vorthak space. Now the time for shadows was over. Earth's vengeance had arrived with guns that could shatter worlds. Captain Wu Insu commanded the flagship, but the fleet belonged to Admiral Park. 500 ships carrying the fury of Earth across the galaxy. Dreadnoughts that bristled with weapons, carriers packed with fighters, cruisers designed to hunt alien vessels through the void. "Admiral, we're approaching the Carthul system," reported the navigation officer. "Vorthak colony world with approximately 50 million inhabitants. Military garrison of unknown size." Admiral Park studied the tactical display. Carthul was the first major Vorthak world they would hit. It was a test of human military power against an entrenched alien position. The outcome would determine how the rest of the war would be fought. Signal the fleet. Begin deployment for Operation Retribution. Major Quan Cheyoung floated in the drop bay of her assault ship, checking her powered armor one final time. Around her, 5,000 Marines prepared for the first major ground assault against Vorthak forces. Their armor was black and intimidating, designed to strike fear into alien hearts. "Listen up," she called to her troops. "We're not here to conquer territory. We're here to demonstrate what happens when you murder human children. The Vorthak think we're weak because we show mercy. Today they learn that mercy is something we choose to give, not something they can take from us." Her Marines checked their weapons, rifles that could punch through alien battle armor, grenades that could level buildings, rocket launchers designed to destroy enemy vehicles. They were ready for war. Commander Lee Jae-wook sat in his fighter cockpit, surrounded by 200 other pilots who remembered New Busan. Their ships were fast and deadly, equipped with missiles that could track targets across vast distances. Each pilot carried a picture of someone who died in the massacre. Each pilot had a personal score to settle. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader." He spoke into his comm. "We're going to show these aliens what human pilots can do when we're angry. Stay sharp, stay together, and make them pay for every human life they took." The battle began at extreme range. Vorthak defense platforms opened fire with beams of coherent energy that could vaporize smaller ships. The alien fleet moved to intercept the human armada, 50 Vorthak warships against 500 human vessels. It was not a fair fight. Captain Wu guided the flagship into the heart of the enemy formation. The TIS New Busan's main guns spoke with voices of thunder. Each shot could destroy a city block. When they hit the lead Vorthak cruiser, the alien ship simply ceased to exist. "All ships commence firing," Admiral Park ordered. Space lit up with weapons fire. Human missiles crossed the void like deadly stars. Alien energy beams lashed out in desperate retaliation. But there was no contest. The human fleet had more ships, better weapons, and superior tactics learned from months of studying Vorthak weaknesses. Chief Warrant Officer Ryu Siona worked at her station, using electronic warfare to blind and confuse the enemy. Her computers invaded Vorthak systems, turning their own weapons against them. Communication networks collapsed. Targeting systems failed. Navigation computers sent ships into collision courses with their own allies. "I'm seeing mass confusion in their fleet," she reported. "Their command structure is breaking down just like Dr. Zhang predicted." The Vorthak orbital defenses lasted 18 minutes. The enemy fleet survived 23 minutes. When the shooting stopped, wreckage drifted where proud alien warships had once ruled space. Not a single human ship was lost. "Begin orbital bombardment," Admiral Park commanded. "Military targets only. Avoid civilian areas." The fleet's bombardment ships moved into position above Carthul. Their weapons could destroy entire city blocks with surgical precision. Military bases vanished in pillars of fire. Spaceports became craters. Government buildings collapsed into rubble, but the civilian cities remained untouched. Human weapons struck with accuracy that amazed even the humans who fired them. "Dropships away," Major Quan announced. 5,000 Marines fell toward the planet in armored pods that burned like meteors through the atmosphere. Each pod was a weapon itself, designed to punch through alien fortifications and deliver its cargo of angry humans directly to the battlefield. Major Quan's pod crashed through the roof of a Vorthak command bunker. She rolled out in full combat armor, her rifle already firing. Alien soldiers scattered in panic. They had never faced humans in ground combat before. They were not prepared for the fury that had come to their world. "Secure the command center," she ordered her squad. "Take their officers alive for interrogation." The battle for Carthul's surface was swift and decisive. Human Marines moved with tactical precision learned from studying alien warfare. They knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum confusion. They knew which officers to capture to paralyze enemy resistance. Vorthak ground troops were brave, but they were not ready for humanity's way of war. Human soldiers fought with cold efficiency and burning rage. They showed mercy to civilians and prisoners, but showed no quarter to those who resisted. Within 6 hours, every major military installation on Karthul had fallen to human forces. Within 12 hours, the planetary government had surrendered unconditionally. Commander Lee Jae-wook led his fighters on patrol over the conquered world. The skies that had once been ruled by alien aircraft now belonged to humanity. His pilots reported no enemy activity. The Vorthak Air Force had been destroyed in the first hours of combat. Phoenix leader to all squadrons, he broadcast. Karthul is secure. Not a single human casualty in air-to-air combat. I'd say the New Busan children have been avenged, but we're just getting started. The news of Karthul's fall spread through Vorthak space faster than light itself. A major colony world had been conquered in less than a day. The mighty Vorthak military had been swept aside like dust before a hurricane. But this was only the beginning. Admiral Park stood on his flagship's bridge looking down at the conquered world. Karthul still burned in places where military targets had been destroyed, but the civilian population was safe under human protection. "Signal the fleet," he commanded. "Set course for the next target. The Vorthak Empire has 47 more worlds that need to learn what happens when you murder human children." Captain Wu smiled grimly. "Which world is next, sir?" "All of them." The fleet moved on, leaving Karthul under human occupation. Behind them, Vorthak civilians emerged from shelters to find that their conquerors were not the monsters their propaganda had described. Human soldiers distributed food and medical supplies. Human doctors treated wounded aliens alongside wounded humans. This confused the Vorthak more than the military defeat. They had been taught that humans were savage beasts who would destroy everything they touched. Instead, they found beings who fought with terrible efficiency, but showed mercy to the innocent. Word of humanity's conduct began to spread through the Vorthak Empire. Some aliens began to wonder if their leaders had lied about why the war started. Some began to ask why humans would show such restraint if they were truly monsters. But Admiral Park and his fleet were already moving toward their next target. The galaxy would learn that Earth's vengeance was not random destruction. It was precise, calculated, and unstoppable. The Vorthak Empire was about to discover what happened when humanity decided that justice needed to be served among the stars. Captain Kang Minji floated in zero gravity aboard the Tez Vengeance, watching her crew prepare for another mission deep in enemy space. The ship was unlike anything humanity had built before. Black metal absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Special engines ran almost silent. Even the hull was designed to bend sensor beams around it like water flowing around a stone. For 6 months, they had been ghosts haunting Vorthak space. They watched enemy fleets from the shadows. They recorded alien communications. They learned how the monsters thought and fought and lived. Lieutenant Nam Junho called from the tactical station. "Captain, we have 3 Vorthak supply ships approaching the mining station at Grid 77 Alpha. Any escorts?" 2 light cruisers. Standard patrol formation," Minji smiled. The Vorthak had become predictable. They thought they owned this part of space. They flew their ships in neat formations and followed the same routes every time. It made them easy to hunt. "Signal Sergeant Oyuna. Tell her to prep for insertion." In the cargo bay, Sergeant Oyuna checked her team's equipment one final time. 5 Marines in black armor that made them invisible to most sensors. They carried weapons designed to kill aliens and leave no trace of human technology behind. "Remember the mission," she told her squad. "In and out, fast and quiet. We plant the charges, grab what intel we can, and vanish before they know we were there." Her Marines nodded. They had done this dance 20 times in the last 6 months. Hit Vorthak facilities when they were weakest. Steal their secrets. Make them wonder who was hunting them in the dark. Dr. Jong Hana worked in the ship's small laboratory, studying captured Vorthak equipment and biological samples. She had learned disturbing things about their enemy. The Vorthak were not just cruel. They enjoyed causing pain. Their society was built on the idea that strong species had the right to destroy weak ones. "They see us as vermin," she told Captain Minji during one of their briefings. In their language, the word for human translates to something like starpest. They believe we contaminate any world we touch. What about their weaknesses? Their command structure is rigid. Every decision must be approved by higher ranks. Kill the officers and the common soldiers become confused and helpless. Petty Officer Shin Dong-hyun had been working on something special for weeks. He was humanity's best electronic warfare specialist, and he had been studying Vorthak communication systems. Their networks were advanced but predictable. They used the same encryption codes across their entire empire. "I think I can do it," he told the captain. "I can hack into their main communication grid. Every ship, every base, every command center, all at the same time." "What would you send them?" Shin smiled. It was not a nice smile. A message they won't forget. The insertion went perfectly. Sergeant O and her team slipped aboard the mining station while the Vorthak workers were sleeping. They planted explosive charges at key structural points. They downloaded data from the computers. They even captured a live Vorthak administrator for Dr. Jong to question. The aliens never knew humans had been there until the station exploded 3 hours later. Captain Minji watched the explosion from 50,000 kilometers away. Fire bloomed in space where the mining station had been. Metal fragments scattered like deadly confetti. The 2 escort cruisers searched frantically for attackers they could not see. "Any survivors?" she asked. "Negative. The station is gone." "Good. Set course for the next target." This was the pattern they followed across Vorthak space. Strike without warning. Leave no evidence. Vanish before the enemy could respond. The aliens began to fear the dark between stars. They started sending larger escorts with their supply convoys. They posted extra guards at their bases, but it did not help. The humans always found a way through their defenses, always struck where they were weakest, always disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. The Vorthak military command began to panic. Supply lines that had been secure for decades suddenly became death traps. Bases that had never been attacked exploded without warning. Soldiers reported ghost ships that appeared on sensors for seconds before vanishing again. Then came the day that changed everything. It was the first anniversary of New Busan's destruction. Captain Minji had been planning something special to mark the date. Petty Officer Shin had finally cracked the Vorthak communication network completely. Every alien ship and base in their empire used the same system. At exactly the moment that New Busan had fallen 1 year ago, every Vorthak communication device in the galaxy activated at the same time. Screens lit up on warships. Speakers crackled to life in command centers. Personal communicators buzzed in the pockets of alien soldiers. The message was simple. It played in perfect Vorthak language, spoken by a voice that sounded like death itself. "We are humanity. 1 year ago you murdered 2 million of our people on New Busan. You thought we were weak. You thought we would forget. You were wrong. We remember every name. We remember every face. We remember every child you killed. We are coming for you. We are the darkness between stars. We are your judgment. We are your end." The message played for exactly 60 seconds. Then every communication system in the Vorthak Empire went silent for 10 minutes. When they came back online, normal programming had returned. But every alien who heard that message knew that something had hunted them across space and found them wanting. Fear spread through the Vorthak Empire like wildfire. Soldiers requested transfers away from frontier posts. Ship captains refused dangerous missions. Some officers even resigned from military service rather than face the mysterious enemy that struck from shadows. Dr. Jong's interrogation of captured prisoners revealed the psychological impact. The Vorthak had spent generations conquering weaker species. They were used to being the hunters, not the hunted. The idea that some unknown enemy was stalking them drove many to madness. "They call us the Silent Death," she reported to Captain Minji. "Their mythology speaks of vengeful spirits that drag the guilty into darkness. They think we might be supernatural." "Let them think that," Minji replied. "Fear is a weapon too, but the real weapon was still being built in Earth's shipyards." While Captain Minji and her fellow hunters terrorized Vorthak space, the largest fleet in human history was taking shape around Earth. Dreadnought battleships that could crack planets, carriers full of fighters piloted by people who remembered New Busan, Marines trained to fight aliens on 100 different worlds. The message to the Vorthak Empire had been more than psychological warfare. It had been a promise. Humanity was coming with ships and guns and rage enough to break worlds. The time for hiding in shadows was almost over. Soon it would be time for open war. And when that day came, the galaxy would learn what happened when humanity decided to hunt something to extinction. The Vorthak Empire had sown the wind when they destroyed New Busan. Now they would reap the whirlwind that was coming for them from Earth. Captain Lee Min-ho stood on the observation deck of New Busan's orbital station, watching the sunrise paint Taiyang 7 in golden light. The planet below looked peaceful. Green fields stretched between gleaming cities. Rivers sparkled like silver threads. He could see the dome of the capital where his sister Ji-hai taught children about Earth's history. It was a good life they had built here. 2 million people called this world home. They grew food that fed other colonies. They built ships that carried families to new worlds. They raised children who would never see Earth but still called themselves human. Min-ho had been a soldier on Earth before coming here. He knew about war and death and the dark things that happened between stars. But for 10 years, New Busan had been safe. The defense platforms floated silently around the planet. The patrol ships made their rounds without finding trouble. Maybe he had forgotten how quickly peace could end. Dr. Park Soo-jin called him from the medical center. Her voice came through his comm with worry in it. Min-ho, we're getting strange readings from the outer system. Ships maybe, but they're not answering our calls. Min-ho frowned. Trade ships always announce themselves. Military patrols identified themselves immediately. How many ships? Too many to count. They're coming fast, Engineer Kim Do-hyun's voice cut in from the power station. Captain, I'm seeing massive energy signatures. These aren't cargo haulers. These are warships. The blood in Min-ho's veins turned cold. He ran to the command center. Communications Officer Choi Na-yeon was already at her station, trying to reach the unknown fleet. Her hands shook as she worked the controls. Unknown vessels, this is New Busan Colony Control. Please identify yourselves and state your business. She repeated the message 3 times. Only silence answered. The tactical display showed the truth. 50 warships approached at attack speed. They moved in perfect formation like sharks smelling blood. Min-ho had seen ships like these in intelligence briefings. The Vorthak Empire used vessels exactly like these. Red alert, Min-ho said quietly. The alarms began to wail across the colony. On the planet below, people would be looking up at the sky and wondering why the sirens were singing. The Vorthak were known throughout this part of space. They conquered worlds and enslaved populations. They believed only the strong deserved to live among the stars. Humans, in their view, were weak and had no right to exist beyond Earth. Get me the Planetary Council, Min-ho ordered. Start evacuation procedures. Get every civilian transport ready to fly. Choi Na-yeon's face went pale. Sir, they're launching fighters. Hundreds of them. The first missiles struck the orbital defense platforms before Min-ho could give orders to return fire. Explosions lit up space like deadly flowers. Metal fragments scattered in all directions. The platforms that had protected New Busan for a decade died in seconds. They're jamming our communications, Na-yeon reported. I can barely reach the surface. On the planet below, the first bombs began to fall. Min-ho watched the tactical display as red dots marked impact sites. The spaceport. The government building. The hospital where Dr. Park Soo-jin worked. Each explosion meant hundreds of lives ended. Kim Do-hyun's voice cracked over the comm. They're targeting the power grid. The whole northern continent is going dark. Min-ho grabbed the emergency broadcast controls. If he could reach Earth, maybe help would come. Maybe someone would remember New Busan when it was gone. Emergency transmission to Earth, he spoke into the microphone. This is Captain Lee Min-ho, New Busan Colony Defense. We are under attack by Vorthak forces. 50 warships. They came without warning. We cannot hold them. Tell Earth we fought. Tell Earth we died as humans. The transmission cut out as enemy fire destroyed the communication array. Now New Busan was alone in the dark between stars. Dr. Park Soo-jin's voice came through on a dying channel. Min-ho, the hospital is under attack. Ground troops in the corridors. I'm not leaving the children in intensive care. Someone has to stay. Soo-jin, get out of there. The building is falling apart. These children cannot move. I will not abandon them. Take care of the others, Min-ho. Save who you can. The channel went silent. Min-ho knew he would never hear her voice again. Evacuation ships launched from spaceports across the planet. Most made it past the atmosphere before enemy fighters caught them. Min-ho watched the lights go out one by one on his display. Each light was a ship full of families trying to escape. Each light was hope dying. Kim Do-hyun appeared on the command deck, his uniform torn and bloody. Sir, I've rigged the main reactor to overload. If they want this place, they'll have to work for it. How long do we have? 20 minutes before the chain reaction starts. The explosion will take out anything in orbit, Minho nodded. It was not much revenge, but it was something. Send the detonation codes to all remaining ships. Anyone who wants to hurt these bastards can ram them before we blow. The last transport ship lifted from the capital spaceport. Minho's sister Jihai was supposed to be on that ship with her students. The school had evacuation priority. Teachers and children first, always. Then he saw the secondary explosion at the school building. The transport ship never launched. The Vorthak had bombed the school directly. Something broke inside Minho's chest. His sister was dead. Her students were dead. All those young minds that would never grow up to see the stars. Sir, we're getting a final count, Neon said through tears. Maybe 50,000 people made it off-world. Out of 2.3 million, 2.3 million dead. Children who would never laugh again. Mothers who would never hold their babies. Fathers who would never come home from work. All because aliens thought humans did not deserve to live among the stars. The reactor overload began its countdown. 15 minutes to detonation. Enemy troops were already moving through the orbital station. Minho could hear their weapons in the corridors. He made one last recording on his personal comm. This is Captain Lee Minho final log entry. New Busan has fallen. The Vorthak Empire has murdered 2 million innocent people. They think humans are weak. They think we will accept this. They are wrong. Someone will remember us. Someone will make them pay. The blast doors exploded inward. Vorthak soldiers in combat armor stormed the command center. They looked like insects wearing metal shells. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Minho drew his sidearm and fired until the power cell ran empty. He killed 3 of them before their return fire cut him down. As he fell, he smiled. In 14 minutes, the reactor would explode and take these monsters with him. The last thing he saw was Taeyang 7 burning below, its cities dark, its people silent forever. New Busan was gone. But somewhere among the stars, 50,000 survivors carried the memory of home. They would reach Earth eventually. They would tell the story of what happened here. And Earth, Minho knew, would remember. Earth would not forgive. Earth would come for the Vorthak with all the fury that humanity could bring to bear. The reactor exploded right on schedule. Admiral Han Giwan stood in the war room beneath Earth's surface, staring at the holographic display that showed humanity's colonies scattered across the galaxy. Green dots marked safe worlds. Yellow dots showed places where contact had been lost. Red dots meant confirmed attacks. New Busan glowed red. So did 3 other colonies. 6 months had passed since the first refugee ships from New Busan reached Earth. Their stories were all the same. Alien warships appeared without warning. Orbital defenses fell in minutes. Cities burned. People died. The lucky few escaped to tell the tale. Ambassador An Soman sat across the table from the Admiral. She had been New Busan's trade representative before the attack. Now she was one of the few people who could tell Earth what really happened out there. Her hair had gone white since the massacre. Her hands shook when she talked about the children. The Vorthak Empire believes humans should not exist beyond Earth, she said for the 100th time to the 100th committee. They think we are a disease that must be stopped from spreading. General Song Hijin leaned forward. She commanded Earth's Special Operations Forces. How many worlds have they hit? 4 that we know about. Maybe more. We lost contact with Harmony Station 3 weeks ago. The mining colony at Kepler 442 stopped transmitting 2 days back. Colonel Bei Jung-ho spoke up from his corner. He ran intelligence operations that reached across human space. My sources say the Vorthak call it the Final Solution Protocol. They want to kill every human outside the solar system. The room fell silent. 30 billion people lived on Earth, Luna, and Mars. But another 100 million humans had made homes among the stars. If the Vorthak succeeded, those people would die just for being human. Dr. Lim Taewon cleared his throat. He led the weapons research division that developed humanity's most advanced military technology. We could build ships, big ones. The new fusion drives we've been testing could power vessels twice the size of anything we have now. How long? Admiral Han asked. 2 years for a full battle fleet. Maybe 18 months if we convert every shipyard in the system. General Song shook her head. Too long. More colonies will fall while we're building. We need to act now. With what? Dr. Lim spread his hands. We have 30 patrol ships and maybe 100 fighters. The Vorthak brought 50 warships to attack New Busan alone. Their empire spans dozens of star systems. Admiral Han turned to the window that looked out over Geneva. The city sparkled in the afternoon sun. Children played in parks. People walked to work. They lived normal lives because they thought Earth was safe. They had no idea that aliens wanted to kill every human in space. What about the other species, he asked. Surely someone else has fought the Vorthak. Colonel Bay pulled up new intelligence reports. The Kalari tried to resist 15 years ago. The Vorthak glassed 3 of their worlds and enslaved the rest. The Threnodi surrendered without a fight when the Vorthak demanded tribute. Nobody stands up to them anymore. Because nobody else has what humans have, General Song said quietly. What do we have that they don't? Rage, she was right. The refugees from New Busan had brought more than just stories. They had brought fury, pure, clean anger at watching their families die for nothing. Every human who heard those stories felt it. The need to hit back. The need to make someone pay. Ambassador On stood up. I want to address the Global Assembly. All of them. Every representative from every nation on Earth. Soman, you've already told them what happened. I told them facts, numbers, military details. I want to tell them about Jihai. Admiral Han frowned. Who? Captain Lee Minho's sister. She taught school on New Busan. When the attack started, she could have run. Instead, she stayed with her students. 23 children ages 6 to 10. She kept them calm while the bombs fell. She sang them songs from Earth while the Vorthak soldiers broke down the doors. Tears ran down the ambassador's face. They found her body covering the children. All of them dead. All of them killed because some alien empire decided humans don't deserve to live among the stars. The room stayed quiet for a long time. Outside, people went about their normal lives. They had no idea that somewhere in space, human children were dying for the crime of existing. Dr. Lim broke the silence. What if we don't wait 2 years? What do you mean? We have research ships. Fast ones with experimental drives. We could modify them for combat. Send them to scout Vorthak space. Learn about their weaknesses. Colonel Bay nodded slowly. Intelligence gathering. Find out how they think, how they fight. Maybe cause some trouble while we're there. What kind of trouble? General Song asked. The kind that makes them look over their shoulders. The kind that makes them wonder if humans are really as weak as they think. Admiral Han walked to the holographic display. He touched the red dot that marked New Busan. 2 million people had lived there. Now it was empty except for alien colonists who thought they had won something. 3 days, he said. I want plans for intelligence operations in Vorthak space. I want designs for new warships. I want every shipyard in the system working on military contracts. Sir, Dr. Lim hesitated. The Global Assembly has to approve military buildup on this scale. They might not agree to it. Admiral Han smiled, but there was no humor in it. They will after they hear Ambassador An's speech about dead children. He was right. 3 days later, Ambassador An stood before the representatives of every nation on Earth. She told them about New Busan. She told them about the families who died. She told them about Jihai and her students. When she finished, the assembly hall was silent except for the sound of grown politicians crying. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth agreed to the same thing. They would build the largest military force humanity had ever created. They would find the Vorthak Empire among the stars, and they would make them pay for every human life they had taken. Within a week, factories across Earth began converting to wartime production. Shipyards that built cargo haulers started designing battleships. Research labs that studied peaceful technologies began creating new weapons. The most important decision was made in secret. A small group of experimental ships would launch immediately for Vorthak space. Their mission was simple: learn everything about the enemy and make them afraid. Captain Kang Minji volunteered to lead the first ship into alien territory. Her crew called themselves hunters. They would learn what it meant to hunt monsters among the stars. Earth was no longer the peaceful world it had been 6 months ago. The death of New Busan had awakened something in humanity, something that had been sleeping since the ancient wars that nearly destroyed their species. Now that something was awake and angry and looking for revenge, the Vorthak Empire had made a mistake. They thought humans were weak because they chose peace. They were about to learn that humans chose peace because they knew what they were capable of when they chose war. The galaxy was about to see what happened when humanity decided to hunt.